Welcome to the Damned Podcast. Real people, real results. Now, today is a very important broadcast. It's our main broadcast for the month of November, and it is entitled The Secret to Magical Results. And it's a secret that's not talked about very much. I'm going to be talking about where magic is really performed. Okay, not just acted out, but really performed. And how you can use that secret to connect with any spirit, no matter what worldview or what culture or what tradition you are working with. And also, what you can do to use and strengthen your ability to take that secret and make it useful for you in your life. This is something that you are definitely going to want to take advantage of right now, maybe even get a pen and paper. We're starting right away.
From a secret location deep in the heart of the northern city of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, this is the Damned Podcast. Be prepared for flashes of insight into another realm with your host, Daniel Updike.
Before you leave, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the little bell icon to make sure you get notified of any new broadcasts. Thank you very much, and get ready for what's to come.
Welcome once again. This is the Damned Podcast. It is a tool that is here for you to help you learn how to use secret or occult methods to grow and to become and to ascend to what you really are, your authentic self. And this is a powerful tool for you right now in this broadcast, where we're going to be talking about the secret that is not often talked about or explained on how magic really works. Okay, this is something that I think should be explained, but often isn't. You go looking around on the internet, and you find videos, and you find access to books, whether they be ebooks or hard copy books or both, that talk about a lot of wonderful things. They talk about how you can set up your temple. They talk about how you can use ritual. They even show you sometimes, if you're watching videos, demonstrations of different rituals and, you know, how you can say this and do that and pronounce this word correctly, draw this symbol or sigil out correctly, and then have results happen for you. And then you go and get all excited about this, and you try it, and nothing happens. And you wonder, oh, well, I guess either I just am not good enough, or maybe it's just something that's a bunch of woo-woo that doesn't have anything real to offer me. Both of those types of conclusions are actually quite incorrect. What is needed to be discussed is how magic actually works and where it's actually performed, not just the mechanics of how you physically express your works, whether it's in a simple type of a ritual or as complicated as detailed ceremonial magic, or whether it's none of the above. Perhaps you use shamanistic techniques. It could be any type of tradition. You could be working with the runes of the north, or you could be working with the loa of the voodoo. You could be doing all kinds of different things that, you know, have many different rich historical, cultural, traditional significance. Or you could be doing something completely modern and have nothing happen of value without this particular secret. And the secret is something that you're going to sit back and say, how in the heck is that possible? That's not what they're showing me. And yet that's exactly what it is. And the secret is this: all magic, not some magic, all magic, is actually performed on the astral plane. But that video... All magic is performed on the astral plane. It doesn't mean that you don't do rituals. It doesn't mean that you don't have all of the significance from whatever tradition that you're working with. But that is a reflection of what is happening on the astral plane. And that is a reason why there is so much, in terms of personal development, that is necessary for effective magical practice. It's not because it's meant to make things an inaccessible secret, although it does become that for people who are not motivated. What it is designed to do is bring you to a place where you are not just operating in what you have been taught and programmed to believe is the sum and total of reality. All right? When you're in your waking state, when you're in your normal consciousness, and if I were to describe this in terms of brainwave patterns, that would be the beta state. You know, the state of consciousness you're in when you're working, or when you're out having conversations with your friends, or whether, you know, it's the type of thing you're used to from day to day, from the time you get up until the time you go to bed. This beta state, this waking consciousness, is not the level of consciousness that touches upon what causes magic to actually work. It isn't. And one of the things that you find that people shrink back from in a little bit of fear and concern is the idea that going through personal development is going to change them. Well, that is what magic does. Now, you might be watching this video and you don't even do anything really overtly occult, but you know what I'm talking about before you decide, you know, this isn't for you in this context of this subject matter. It's something that can help you no matter what you're doing, because we all work magic, so to speak, as human beings, whether it's consciously done or unconsciously done. If it was not that way, none of us would even be alive, because there are so many things that depend upon the flow of energy, and magic is a directing of energy for the purpose of creating change in congruence with your will. All right? Now, when you're just doing this unconsciously, and I'm speaking to some people out here that, you know, maybe you've never done magic, okay? When you're just doing it unconsciously, you're kind of rolling the dice, because whatever focus, whatever belief systems that you have in your life and in your heart, some that are even below the surface of your awareness, are going to be causing different things to manifest in your life, and you're going to call it destiny or fate. When you start doing it deliberately, you find out that it is a very difficult thing to do at first, because you need to overcome that programming that is limiting what you believe you can and cannot do, what you believe you can and cannot have, what you believe you are capable of. Now, yes, there are some things that when we look through the eyes of wisdom, we realize that we're not capable of doing in our physical bodies. For instance, if you have one leg, you know, you might find it difficult to tap dance. Doesn't mean that you couldn't do it, but you'd have to really put in a lot of effort, probably a lot more effort than somebody that had two legs. All right? There are things that are natural talents and skill sets that we have, and then things that we need to work on, and some things we don't want to work on because we're not even interested in them. And that's okay. If everyone was the same, this would be a real boring place and a boring existence. We're all different. We all have different focuses. We all have different aspects of our lives that are good for our becoming, and some of these things are not even on the same page as, say, another person. We don't even all like the same food. That's okay. There's no reason to feel threatened by that, or threatened because somebody's different. We have control over what we do. But getting back to the subject matter of this little broadcast, when we are approaching anything to do with magic, whether it's from an overtly occult perspective or not, it is something that is going to change us. And that fear of changing is actually a fear of that which is unfamiliar. But I can tell you, doing this for over 30 years, the changes that happen, and sometimes there are some grave sacrifices that are there, because of course change is not always a pleasant thing. But when it's over with and you look back on it, you realize that what you gave up was nothing but turd. And what you got in return for your sacrifice and for your focus and your openness to be able to change was a connection with your more authentic self. And that is priceless. That is beyond compare. And it's something that also helps you further your remembrance of who you really are on the other side of the veil of limitation. And this is what magic is actually for. And in order to practice magic, then, we need to be connected with that which is our authentic self. And that requires us not to be in the normal waking state of consciousness. It means going into another state, a state that is sort of in between waking and dreaming. Because when you're doing this, especially at the beginning, you don't want to lose control of yourself because, to give a little bit of a visual example. Yes, the snoring begins and the sleeping happens and you wake up and then you criticize yourself if you're like most people. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. But it happened. And what that meant basically was that you had not yet trained yourself to have more will and more self-control to maintain your awareness when you are in that state. And I'm going to be going later on near the end of this little video, different things you can do to strengthen that so that you can use this secret that I'm talking about of performing magic on the astral plane, no matter what context you're in, and it's going to be a real help to you. Okay, magic is performed on the astral plane, but not necessarily always solely on the astral plane. Sometimes you can, and I'll touch on that. But what happens is you get into that state that's between waking and dreaming, and again, talking about brainwave patterns. Okay, that would be going down. The brain waves go basically like this. You have your beta state, which is a frequency that is your waking consciousness. The next, just below that, is the alpha state. And that is sort of some people call it the hypnagogic state. You're kind of in between. It is a state of hypnosis, believe it or not. If you're watching television, you're entering into an alpha state. You're watching me right now. Guess what? If you're embroiled with what I'm saying, you're into an alpha state. It's something that we do all the time, and our mind, our brain, actually cycles through all of the different frequencies I'm talking about several times a minute. All right, so this is actually normal. It's natural. And it's also something to bring awareness to you when you're allowing things to go in that are just garbage, that teach you how to dislike yourself, like so many things that are bombarding us in the world today. You don't want to have that becoming something that's an inner belief system that manifests in your life. All right, that's just a side note. Okay, but you're entering into the alpha state, and of course the next state, the state when you're asleep, usually is the theta state. Now, that goes deeper and deeper until finally you reach a state where there's really nothing going on brainwave-wide, just a little bit, enough activity to keep your organs going, and that's the delta state. And that state is very, very, very deep. Now, you don't want to go into the delta state when you're performing magic because basically you're astral projected at that point. Your body's got a I'm on vacation sign on it, and you're not going to really be doing anything except something just directly and solely on the astral plane. So you want to be, at the start, getting into the alpha state and developing self-control there. And then as you do this, more and more and more, you're going to develop more and more of the self-control and go deeper and deeper into the alpha state until finally you actually even get into the the higher end of the theta state, and you're still consciously aware. But, getting into the mid-range of the alpha state in a magical work is good enough, because what you want is to be fully aware of what I'm going to be talking about in a few moments about how the magic is performed on the astral plane, and with your body and the motions that you're doing. Because let's say you're a ceremonial magician and you're doing, an hour and a half of litanies and lighting candles and doing this and doing that. Well, you don't want to be stumbling around like a sleepwalker, because you'll tip something over, like I did one time. I tipped over an incense brazier and I caught the burning charcoal, because I instinctually thought, I don't want that to hit my carpet. And of course, I realized my mistake before the sound of the sizzling flesh reached my ears. And, that was a moment where, there was a lot of words that were being uttered in the magical work. It had nothing to do with the work at hand. It had to do with a lot of things, with certain positions and sexuality and so on and so forth, and parentage of the creators of that particular brand of charcoal. But it was all something that happened, and it was embarrassing, and I laugh at it, and I hope you get a laugh out of it too, because you know what, if that ever happens to you, please don't follow that instinct to catch it. Just make sure you have something on hand before you even start that work, that if you do have a mishap, you're able to deal with it before anything damaging occurs. But you want to be, from the point of this little story, keeping yourself in enough awareness physically that you can do the things that are part of the work that you're doing without diverting your attention, without getting yourself into a place where you have an accident and have issues with that, because that also brings you right out of your work. And even when you're doing simple things, you don't want your focus to end up drifting off either. You want to keep your focus. 2 little episodes that I've done that you should watch in conjunction with this. If you go through our archives, it's on the playlist Broadcasts and Features, Sending Magic. All right? And then the other one, Ritual Structure. In both of those little videos, I go through some very important things about what you need to do to have your intent and your focus filling every action that you take in a ritual for maximum effectiveness. Okay? And with this, I'm talking about the underpinning of it all. All right? And when you are doing this, when you are building this level of awareness, you are opening yourself to a much wider range of frequencies that you can communicate with. And this is true whether you're dealing with any type of occult work, shamanism, even meditation. Okay, this opens up communications. I'll explain that too. With the runes, it opens up different aspects of communication, because when you open yourself up to the different frequencies, you begin to hear, not necessarily with your ears alone, but with other aspects of your being, and you know it. You begin to hear what is being communicated around you and to you. All right? This goes for the disincarnate. When you say you're working in necromancy, with the ancestors or with any other type of spirit, you are able then to hear, and hear is kind of a mundane word, but for simplicity, I'll just use that word, what they're trying to communicate with you. You're able to hear what the runic stream energies are trying to impress on you when you're using them, because there's communications that they have too. They're living. Okay? There's also the aspect of, let's say, working in evocation and invocation. You are able to so much more clearly, with the self-control and that deeper state of awareness and consciousness, hear what is being communicated to you with less ambiguity, because sometimes what many people have as ambiguity is due to their own ability to clearly understand what's being communicated. This helps with that a great deal. All right. The other thing too, because I mentioned meditation there, is you can hear, and this is the most important of all, much clearer communication from your authentic self, from who you really are deep inside. Because the subconscious mind is the realm of that aspect of yourself that is connected to who you really are. All right? And that's powerful. Okay? This is something that, you can train yourself to do And I'm going to go through some steps on how that can be done and what you can do. And you're going to laugh at some of it, but it's very effective to train yourself to have that self-control and to have that expanded awareness and end up having it at will. Because it's going to be something that you incorporate into your practice. And I really wish that more people that practice these arts would talk honestly and clearly about these things, rather than just wanting to be sensational and put some, fancy rituals out there for people to see, or make nice grimoires and so on and so forth. Now, these things are useful, they have a purpose, and I like them, I'm sure you do too. But the thing is that there's more to it than that in order for you to really be successful and effective in doing it. I've only found in my experience 2 people that have done that. Only 2. Now, there may be more, but that's all that I was able to find. But in a moment, I'm going to be talking about the aspects of what you can do to create this, if you don't have it already, or strengthen it if you do, this expanded awareness, and how you can use it in every aspect of your growth to ascension. All right, so hang tough. I will be back in just a moment. You're watching the Damned Podcast.
Announcing from the Edmonton Metaphysical Market, located in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. There are going to be markets taking place on December 1st and 2nd, 2018, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. They are also open at the same times on December 22nd. There are speakers, vendors, readers, and more. They are located at 10318 100th Avenue in Edmonton, Alberta. They are truly an outstanding event. Don't miss out.
And we're back. And of course, this is something that is so powerful. I hope that you're taking notes on this, and I hope that you share this video far and wide, because we want to see as high an impact and help for people as we can. And, don't forget that if you want to have personal time with me, if you want to have coaching in and teaching and how to use these techniques, and I've gone through quite a few of them, to build yourself up, then feel free to join our Patreon community, which is at patreon.com/thedamnpodcast. You'll find a link to that below in the description. Now, of course, I've talked about where magic is really performed, which is the astral plane. I've talked about how you access that through getting your consciousness from the normal beta waking state into the mid-alpha range, and having that awareness of yourself. Now, how does that work and fit in? Because, of course, you can communicate with spirits more clearly that way, with yourself that way, but how do you get to work magic this way, and what do you do to build that? Well, first of all, a very simple exercise that you can do is in your imagination. Well, why the imagination? Well, because the imagination is a place where you are in absolute control of what you are building in your mind. Think about what the most useful, effective, powerful type of surroundings for practicing your magical arts would be. It doesn't have to be attainable for, at the moment for what you actually physically have. What would it be like? Would it be by a river? What would the river be like? Wide or narrow? Would it be gentle or roaring? Would there be trees? Would there be grass? Would there be wildlife? Would there be a breeze? Would it be in a cave? Would it be dark? Would it be lit with torches? Would it be lit with hanging lamps? Would it be in a great temple? Well, what would it look like? Would it have a marble floor? Would it have tapestries hanging on it? What kind of symbols would it have near there? Would there be an altar in it? Think about these things, and what you do is just take what you can come up with and build an image of that in your mind. And do that once every day. Just build that image in your mind. Make it more and more clear, more and more detailed. As you do this, perhaps more symbols, more types of artifacts, different things that occur in the background may come to you, and feel free to add them in, because the more you do this, the more detail you're able to hold in your mind. And that's great. And why is that something that's important? And you may be laughing at that and saying, what? I'm sitting here building an imaginary temple. I'm here building an imaginary Vey or Fritz. It's what am I doing here? Well, what you're doing is creating something that is completely of your own design and adding an emotional anchor to it through things that you consider to be important symbols. On the astral plane, thoughts are things. Just like this desk that I have my computer on is a thing on the physical plane. On the astral plane, thoughts are things. And you're building something in your mind that, with your impression, repetition, emotional anchor, and it doesn't have to be, weepy emotion, but I'm talking about, the things that you value being there. You liked this place. This is a place that you have identified in your mind, even though it's in your imagination, as being important. You have added enough of an emotional anchor to it that there is going to be an aspect of it that becomes more and more clear, more than in just your thoughts, more than in just your imagination, but on the astral plane. Now, keep on doing this. I know people that have been doing this for decades. They never stop spending 5 or 10 minutes, whether they're on a walk or whether they're, just getting relaxed after a long day's work, or just before they're going to bed, whenever, just taking a few moments to, maybe add a few more details to their astral temple. However that might be to them. And it just becomes clearer and clearer, not only in your imagination, but also on the astral plane. Now, when you're going to practice your magical works, okay, whether they're simple, modern, based on ancient traditions, complicated, it doesn't matter. Before you start, take a few moments, as I said in the movie, or not movie, in the video, pardon me, Sending Magic, take a few moments to get yourself into a meditative state, a light meditative state, where you bring yourself into what I was talking about, into that mid-range alpha state. And when you allow yourself to do that, the more you do it, the deeper into the alpha state you'll be able to go, because that self-control is going to build up, And eventually you're going to actually be able to even go as far as the very, very fringes of theta and still be completely physically operative. All right, you're in that state, and some sorcerers call it the in-between, where you're not quite in the next realm over and not quite in this one. You're kind of in both. And that is where you want to be when you're actually going to practice your ritual. And this means that where your ritual is concerned, and don't be scared by the term ritual, brushing your teeth every morning is a ritual. Ritual, by that I mean it's a series of acts that you make in order to impress upon the planes what your will is to be manifested. All right? That's basically all it is. Simple, complicated, doesn't matter. You get into that state of mind. All right? That means you got to know what your work is that you're going to be doing. And so you start doing that with the idea. You're also in this temple, this place, whether it's by the river, in the cave, on a hill, however you've got it set up in your mind, doing the very same things that you're doing in your physical temple, in your physical ritual. And you begin to realize, as you are in that state of mind, you're almost divided. Your focus is one, your focus is single, your intent is completely laser on target, but your consciousness is kind of in both this astral temple and your physical temple, or your space, or whatever you want to call it, doing the same thing at the same time. Well, what does that sound like? As it is above, so it is below. As it is within, so it is without. That together they accomplish the miracles of the one thing. All right. You're going to realize as you do this and get more and more adept at it that actually what you're doing in your physical temple is only a reflection of what you're doing on that astral temple level. You are performing the magic right where it's going to be. Now, this is useful in everything that you do. Let's say just for meditation, and you're going to use meditation as a launch point for something deeper. You can go, when you're in the deep meditative state, to this very same astral temple, space, however it is, whatever you want to call it, and use it as a launch point to fare forth astral projecting onto various different levels and layers of consciousness, to different places in the universe, to different planes of existence, and you have a launching point to go from and a place to come back to, where you can bring yourself back into a state of centeredness when you return to your awakened consciousness. Wow, that's powerful. If you're not overtly occult, you can use that astral temple as a place where you embolden and emblazon your more modern concepts, okay, more modern methods of what changes you want to see happen in your life, what changes you want to see happen in your family. And you know what? It'll work. And if you are overtly occult, like myself and like many others, think of how much power that will add to the effectiveness of what you're doing, whether it be for great things or things that you just need to get through because of the challenges you might be facing today. All right, this is so important. This is what you can do. You might want to listen to this part of the broadcast over again and write it down. Folks, hear me. This works. This works. I wouldn't be alive today if this stuff didn't work. All right? You know, there's many, many times that physically I would have, could have, and actually one time I did physically die. If it weren't for the fact that the disciplines that I learned in this and the practices that I have done and continue to do in this were there and were living in part of my life, I'd already be gone. Other people that have been affected by things, possibly could have been laid to waste because I wasn't there in their life. That doesn't mean that I'm important or anything else like that. I'm just talking about, people that were in my own family that are ignorant of many of the things that go on the plains and so forth, didn't have anywhere else to turn. And I wouldn't have been there for them. And you know what? That would be the same for you. Because you know what? You affect other people. You have a circle of people. You are a person that can make a difference. If you decide that that's what you really want to do. If you decide that that's really how you want to be. When you don't take things like this seriously, and that doesn't mean, life is a drudgery or anything. Far from it. This is exciting stuff when you get doing it. But when you don't want to take that step, you don't only just rob yourself, you rob everybody else around you that could have benefited from you too. And maybe have grown themselves and been inspired to move forward. Yeah, there's a lot of times we look at things and it's just about, what we can control, which is ourselves. And I'm not talking about being a philanthropist. But we are not living isolated little lives all on the top of a mountain. We live lives where we are interconnected. And what we do does not only affect us. It has a ripple effect on everything. And on the widest scale of things, when you move forward in this, you are, in your part, actually putting a ripple effect that touches the consciousness of the entire human race. And when you don't, you're sending a ripple effect out too. We cannot escape that. I hope this is something that really helps you. Please feel free to leave comments. Realize that I will be able to look at those comments even after this has been aired. And I get notifications on stuff like that. And when I'm able to look at that, I will get back to you. And you can also email me if you have questions at thedamnedpodcast@gmail.com. And I'll get back to you there too. And realize that I appreciate you. And I am delighted for the opportunity to be able to put out videos like this, because you know what? This helps me just as much as it helps you. And it's an honor to be able to do it. Thank you for watching. I am Daniel, the host of the Damned Podcast. Until next time.